This is Brett Clay here in Schiphol Airport. Did I pronounce that right, Andre?
Almost right. Schiphol Airport.
Schiphol Airport.
The difficult Dutch G.
Okay, in Amsterdam, Netherlands. And I'm here with Andre Bonvanie.
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 Right.
One day I'll learn some Dutch a little bit here. And Andre is the, you'll help me. Thank you, Andre. Andre is the general manager of Newsgator. So Andre, tell us a little bit about Newsgator.
Newsgator is a company that delivers a business application for SharePoint that allows people to create their own social network environment, similar to Facebook or Twitter that are out on the intranet. But now you have a fully secured environment on your intranet, allowing you, let's say, a full social experience, social computing experience, ISO 2.0 experience. Yeah.
Now, when you say people, you really mean companies and enterprises, right?
Right. We actually mean companies and enterprises, people that have made a strategic decision for SharePoint, and we allow them to kind of now build in their, SharePoint, let's say Facebook experience, and have people just do their social networking securely behind the firewall. Yep.
And when you say Facebook, that's an analogy. It's not actually, you're not bringing Facebook in, right?
No, it's really our product that we deliver and we deploy and develop, and is similar to that experience like you would have on the typical, let's say, consumer social networks. Yes.
Right. It sounds very compelling because even in the American Society for Training and Development, I don't know if you're familiar with that organization, but it's all about learning and driving knowledge inside of companies. And they're talking about how informal learning and social and communicating and social networking inside of companies is becoming increasingly valuable and important these days to really drive productivity inside of companies.
I totally agree, and what we also see, and that's totally in line with what you're saying, is that a lot of companies need to innovate, and innovation is most of the time limited by hierarchy, right? So people have ideas and great plans, but they kind of can't get it to work, and so we'll see that as one option. We see that a lot of people use SharePoint as their CMS system, and still people can't find what they need to kind of to learn or to get their job done. Therefore, it's our belief that social computing in general should be a function of the workflow, making sure that people can do their job, be successful at that, and in the meantime do a lot of social engagement and easy learning, as you say, by listening to other people. I actually call it situational learning. A single question does not have a single answer most of the time, and so we'll see a lot of companies allowing people to learn easily by sharing and participating. Yeah.
It's a great way to really have the best ideas percolate up from anywhere in the company if it's on a social network.
Right, we see a lot of companies actually implementing a specific idea, capturing technology or applications, but they're not integrated with the rest. And in most times they're actually anonymous as well from the people that actually supply that. But that is actually not a good idea in our belief. It's better to make it explicit who is behind it, who can be participating. Maybe you could argue that people would say that's my privacy is being violated because or maybe people don't give their best ideas because there's some hierarchy involved and it's very explicit who is doing what. But we think it's just making companies improve themselves and reinventing themselves, not just for product development but for any kind of process within the organization, from the janitor to the CEO, basically.
Exactly. So I've got to ask you a couple of questions in my area of expertise. My practice is around change leadership. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, what kind of trends or changes are you seeing these days in the Netherlands?
Well, one of the most important parts that we see is that people, even top managers, starting to participate more and communicate in new ways. Typically, when about 10 years ago, you could still find CEOs that didn't even know how to use email, right? And so, but now we see a trend of CEOs and leaders in organizations that start their own blog, they start to communicate. Obviously, all driven by the consumer side, social environments, and so that's what we see. We see trends that, for instance, in the Netherlands, it's very. You see a lot of politicians, for instance, Twitter, that might not be good, because obviously a lot of young people don't have anything with politicians, and so they might see that Twitter now is kind of old people's things, but could be, but still it's a very effective way of in a non-structured way starting to create, create communications and have people participate and be, and make owner of the overall strategy of companies, and not just, people saying you have to do it this way, but basically, involve people into doing that. And so, what I think, current leaders know how to do very effectively is, involving people to be part of your overall organization. Not only when they're working at the organization, also before, onboarding, have your HR, let's say, strategy to involve, universities and people in universities, but also people that leave your company and have those alumni networks to continue to work together on an improvement of the company, because somehow you still have some, let's say, in general, some connection with the company, even if you leave, right? And so we see that a lot, so that people understand that you can actually, make this technology and benefit and make it beneficial to you if you participate, to have everything from onboarding to leaving your organization, and have, people just working and sharing knowledge right in between.
Now, as you come into a company and you install this social networking capability on top of, inside their environment, that's a change. Usually, I would think. And so you have to drive change in the organization and figure out a way to get sponsorship or to make that happen. What are some of the best practices that you've identified when you go and you drive change in installing your product in companies?
So there's a couple of things. We tend to enter a company on the IT level. So but that's something that is now changing rapidly, where the involvement between, let's say, the business side, marketing, communications, HR, are now requesting these kind of solutions and scenarios from a training, from HR recruitment point of view, from communications point of view. So you see a change in terms of where actually, a request is coming from. So what we see is that in order to be successful, you need to have a champion, somebody that believes in it. And we've seen just people that got a request from a business owner, just create something. How can we improve our communication? Made it into a traineeship request, turning into a solution of where we were implemented. We've seen that happen, but we also seen it happen where there's a really formal process of application selection based on a lot of feature and functionality request. But in the end, you need a sponsor, you need a champion, somebody that believes in the solution. You need a sponsorship from management that actually, are driving it by example. And so to be able to kind of, show people that they can do it. And that comes back to the previous question where you said, well, how you see, management change. Management understands that, leaders understand that, these kind of solutions are really powerful. A lot of people, you don't have to explain anything what the power of the people could be in taxonomies, and they understand that. They just don't know how to implement it properly or how to find the right ways. And so you see a lot of little point solutions popping up because they want to do some quick solutions, and that's where IT comes in. Of course, those are the people that want more of a sustainable solution. That is maintainable and secured and all that. So there you see where the connection between IT and the business is coming from. But in general, what we see is you have to have support by IT, a blessing by top management, and a couple of champions that actually drive the solution and market it for you internally. Then we see something is really happening. You don't have to explain, fortunately, the end user how to kind of use it. They already know, because you know what, they're all on SharePoint, they're all on, so let's say, Facebook or MySpace, or in the Netherlands Hives, or on Twitter. So you don't have to explain how these things work. They know, right? And so the only question that we typically get is, how can we avoid that people start flaming or bashing, whatever. And it turns out that actually never happens that much. I mean,
yeah, those people would get squashed kind of very quickly, right?
People behave differently when they're on the business network. That's one, and the other one, they do. And the other thing is that obviously if it happens, it's kind of obvious who it was. And fortunately, what we've also seen is that by getting this out all in the open, you see a social, let's say, cleansing of the organization. You don't have, as a management, you really don't have to do a lot about it. The other people actually say you can't do that. It's policing, soft policing, and people stop doing it. And so, from a couple of our clients, the statistics that we have is that out of total population of roughly 500,000 users, a couple of clients, we noticed we got. Well, not in one instance, right? Not one client, but across. We have more customers than that, but we know from about 500,000, a couple of companies with about 500,000 people, that over years' time there were only like 5 or 6 instances of these bashing or flame scenarios. So it's almost non-existent. Most of the time, people regulate themselves, and stuff like that. But we do know that legal and HR, specifically in large organizations, are always kind of very, very cautious about that stuff. We understand.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Ander. It's great to meet you and great to have you on the show.
Yes, same here. Appreciate it that we got the time to discuss this little opportunity here, and let's see if we get another video in a year's time. Do you think? See where we are.
Exactly. Check back with you. Yeah. All right, great. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.